Welcome into the midweek edition of the Locked On Packers Squad Show. I am your host. My name is Brandon Sneide. And after the biggest loss of the season, it is time to really see what this Packers team is all about.
Hey, this is Coach Jags. Hey, listen, all we got to do is win the next game and we're in the playoffs. That's the whole key.
Go Pack Go! It's the Packers Squad. Everything Green Bay Packers every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from Titletown. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. From the frozen tundra with all the cheeseheads, the Packers Squad Show starts now.
You are Locked On Packers, parts of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Follow the podcast on Twitter at Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you get podcasts. Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever you find them, you will certainly find the Locked On Packers, the number one Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for the fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. As always, thanks to each and every one of you who makes Locked On Packers your first listen each and every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all season long. Well, Coach, after an unraveling disaster last week in Chicago, really 4 days ago, feels like a lifetime ago, against those Chicago Bears, the Packers will look to bounce back. They got the Ravens in the last regular season game of the season at Lambeau Field. We'll take a look at that matchup. We'll dive into the group chat. We'll give our extra points of the week. And as we always do at the end of the show, stay tuned. We will hand out our final score predictions for week 17. But Coach, I did want to kind of stick on the topic of the Chicago Bears, if we may. And I know it's
hard to get over. It
is hard to get over. I'm not sure we're going to get out. I do want to begin with the fallout from Soldier Field, if we may. I know Packer fans are rolling their eyes, maybe turning off the podcast. Hold tight. Sit tight. I know we got to get through this real quick, and then we'll break down the Ravens game. But the Packers were up late in that game, Coach, a 10-point lead. Should there be any concern from a coach's standpoint of a hangover from that loss going into this week?
I think it's got to be really a short hangover on this one because, again, I said this before, every win and loss is a learning experience one way or the other, and they don't have time to lick their wounds. They got to come out because they got to win this next football game, and they should be grateful that it's back at Lambeau. Yeah. They really are, because they didn't have to go travel this week. They got Baltimore coming into town. Last home game of the regular season in Lambeau. Should be electric, but it'll be interesting to see how they handle all these injuries, Brandon.
It is going to be interesting, and if you haven't seen the injury report yet, Packer fans, I think, Coach, it's probably half the team. If I go through all of them, we may run out of time. So,
Brandon, I counted it; it was 20.
Okay, so we're close.
Oh,
20.
Yeah,
and we'll get into the injury reports. Jordan Love, Malik Willis, both questionable for Saturday. Both did participate in practice in limited fashion. We'll talk about that, Coach. I did want to kind of stick on this a little bit, if I could, because you've coached at every rank, possible: high school, college, NFL. Do you remember a loss in your career that you still wake up thinking about, that you still wonder what could have been? Is there a game in which the Packers or wherever you were coaching where you thought we were going to win and it was kind of taken right from underneath you?
Well, actually, I really do, and it still hurts my feelings to this day. But we were playing Philadelphia. You may know the year, but
if it's a game I'm thinking of, I'm going to go 2003.
It is.
Is it 03 or 02? One of the two.
I don't know. It's such a blur, but I do remember that. And it's funny that, like, when you get like wins and losses and winning on the last play of the game or losing on the last play of the game. But we were playing in Philadelphia, and the winner of that game was going to Carolina to play the Panthers. And the game was literally over. And it was a play was called fourth. You got to help me out here, Brandon. Fourth and what?
4th and 26.
4th and 26. So on the third down, Ed Donatello was the defensive coordinator, and we talked about cover zero last week on Saturday's show. But it was all out blitz. We sacked Donovan McNabb. Then it became down 4th down and 26. And the game was over. We were all going like, man, we're going to Carolina this next weekend. Literally, we're already on the plane. And it was because we played pretty darn well that night. And Ed Donatel called Tampa 2 because it was 4th and 26, which was it is to this day too. It's a long yardage defense, and it's the best defense you could possibly call. So he calls Tampa 2, 4th and 26, and Nick Barnett, who was our number 1 draft pick, playing middle linebacker, and his job was to drop to the middle of the field on Tampa 2, and he did not drop. And they ended up throwing the ball right down the middle of the field on a crossing route to set up a field goal, and the field goal was a game-winning field goal to win the game. So, yeah, I still remember that. It's just a bad feeling. But, yeah, you do remember those, and you'd like to at the end of your career, and I think I'm done now, but you like to have more of those good ones than the bad ones, but you do remember those bad ones for sure.
So the consequences in that one, Coach, a little bit different, right? That ended your guys' season. That was the playoffs. That ended your season. If you are Matt LaFleur, what are you doing this week to, and maybe saying the team needs to get back on track could be a little hyperbolic, right? Like they were in position to win that game with Jordan Love going down in the second quarter. Obviously you didn't have Micah Parsons. Like half the team is injured. Your offensive line is banged up. No Zach Tom in this game, no Evan Williams in the secondary. So I don't want to say get them back on track, because I felt like they were on track there in Chicago, but the train quickly derailed in that fourth quarter. If you're Matt LaFleur, what are you doing this week to get this team to focus in on a couple of things, Coach? Number one, this game, right? The Baltimore Ravens. Number two, the Packers magic number is still 1. Like they have to win to get, or a Lions loss, one of the two, to get into the playoffs the last 2 weeks. I think we would all agree that will likely happen. But it is, Coach, like it is a possibility that they still win this division. I know it's a lot of sadness amongst Packer fans, me included, because of the loss to the Chicago Bears. But if the Bears lose their last 2 and the Packers win their last 2, the Packers will win the division. But if you're Coach LaFleur, put on your coach's cap, how are you approaching this week for this team?
So what do we have to do? I mean, just like, well, we could still win the division and all that stuff, but the goal, I know the goal always is to go ahead and let's go win a Super Bowl, right? But the goal when you're getting your football team ready is to get into the playoffs, to have a chance to go compete for a world championship. So everything is still in front of them. And the great thing about that is they only have to win one more game.
Correct.
And I don't want to jump next week because Minnesota, they don't have anything to play for other than to go ahead and try to spoil it if we don't win this week with Baltimore. But all I'd be talking about to my team this week is let's go ahead and win this next one. Whatever we have to do, put a great game plan together, put our guys in the best situation to succeed, and let's go ahead and go beat Baltimore this weekend in Lambeau.
Now it's just to kind of piggyback off of that a little bit, like there's only so much coaches can say and do before players eventually have to step up. Now, this is also the youngest team in the NFL, Coach. Like it is an experienced group though, right? Jordan Love has come in. He's kind of seen everything, coming in, being drafted and behind Aaron Rodgers and watched him win an MVP. And then, took the reins over in 2023 and then eventually would go to the postseason and both years as the starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. So it's a young team. It's the youngest, but it's experienced. Do you think this team do you think like for coaches too, they have to rely on that player leadership to kind of get through these moments, even if like, for example, this might be some of their first time going through it?
Yeah. It doesn't matter how old these guys are. You do still have your leaders. It doesn't matter how old or young they are. If they are young, then they're young leaders, and they have to go ahead and in the locker room, you can't understand how much leadership is just done in the locker room between practices or after practices. It's like, hey, you know what? You needed to have done this better today, or you done this better today. And, and we always talk about the standard and how you have to carry the standard of what the Packers standards are. And they just have to go ahead and fulfill that every single day, every minute of the day when they're at practice.
The Packers will welcome in the Baltimore Ravens in Week 17 to Lambeau Field. Can't believe, Coach, the last regular season game at Lambeau Field already, and we'll host the Ravens. It will mark just the 8th meeting between these two teams. The Packers have won 3 of their last 4 regular season matchups against their opponents, and 2 of the last 3 of the contests have been decided by 2 points or less, and both were won by the Green Bay Packers between these two teams. It is an interesting team, Coach. The Ravens are 7-8 on the season. They're 4-2 on the road. They have a better road record than home record. So a John Harbaugh-led team, they're going to come in. They're going to be prepared. They did lose to New England 28-24 in Week 16. They had an early lead in that game, as did the Packers against the Bears. So the Packers had a lead for most of that game outside of the final few minutes. Lamar Jackson, questionable in this one. He left due to a back injury right before halftime. The Ravens 4-12 without Lamar Jackson since 2020 and averaging just 15.5 points per game in those contests. When you look, Coach, at John Harbaugh and his Baltimore Ravens, what's one of the few things that stick out to you in how they play and how they prepare?
I'm going to just tell you a real quick story about that, because John was a special teams coordinator with the Philadelphia Eagles that particular game that we're talking about that we lost to, where they ended up kicking a field goal at the end of the game, last second field goal to win the damn game. But John was the defensive coordinator, or special teams coordinator.
Teams, yeah.
And I remember talking to John before the game. We knew each other. Everybody knows everybody, right, in the league. And I remember talking to him specifically before the game, before that. But I'll tell you what, the Harbaugh, you could go back to your Jack Harbaugh when he was at Western Kentucky, and John and Jim. Those guys are really, really good football coaches. You can't stay at a place as long as John has stayed at Baltimore as he has. He's had a bunch of success, had a chance to win a Super Bowl, but he's a really, really good football coach. And I tell you, there's another guy on that staff that I'm very, very good friends with, is Chuck Pagano. Chuck Pagano was the head coach. We were at East Carolina together way back in the day. And, Chuck ended up becoming the head coach with the Colts, and he had cancer and all that. Well, he's back with John as a senior assistant, a defensive assistant at Baltimore. So those guys are really good football coaches. They're in the same spot. They got a bunch of injuries.
Yep.
And, everybody's got injuries right now, Brandon. There's not one team that's like, oh man, we're super healthy. And you know what? Football doesn't care. People don't care if you're hurt. I guarantee you, they're not sitting up there in Baltimore going like, oh man, boy, that's a tough deal for the Packers. They got all these guys hurt. They're happy about that.
Yeah, and they're kind of in a similar boat with the Packers as far as quarterbacks go. Like we already talked about, Jordan Love, concussion, did practice on Tuesday, which is Wednesday in football sense. So as the Packers prepare to play the Ravens, they did have Jordan Love practice in a limited basis, as did Malik Willis. He hurt his throwing shoulder. I believe it was right before halftime or right at the end of, no, it was at the end of regulation against the Chicago Bears on a sack from Montez Sweat. So he also was limited. The Ravens, we mentioned it, Lamar Jackson leaves with a back injury, and Tyler Huntley, Coach, on the other side, like he's no scrub either. Like he can come in and he can lead a team. He beat the Chicago Bears, the team the Packers just lost to in October 26th. They beat the Chicago Bears with Tyler Huntley under center. So it's a team where it doesn't really if Lamar Jackson's not in, that obviously changes things a little bit, but it's still a team that you can't sleep on. And they're also, I don't want to say in desperation mode, they need a lot more help. The Packers, I think, will be comfortable knowing that they're probably going to get into the, if they don't win, any Lions loss is a Packers playoff berth. Right. Any Packers win is a playoff berth. Like the Packers right now control their destiny as far as the postseason goes. The Ravens need a lot of help. Like they need the Steelers to lose their last 2 games. The Ravens need to win their last, they need a lot of help. Is there any concern, if you're a Packers fan, Coach, that the desperation that Baltimore's coming in with on Saturday could change things? Our friends over at FanDuel have the Packers as 2.5-point favorites which is kind of a push, given the home field for the Packers. So I think, Vegas is probably looking at this as like, hey, this is kind of a desperation mode for really both of these teams, but more Baltimore.
Well, here's the thing. When you're in a desperation mode, you might do some things that are out of character for you. So they may have like some trick plays, or they may have some different things they have to do. And it's eerily similar to what the Packers are with Love to Malik.
Yep.
And then Huntley backing up Jackson. Really, really good football players. The thing about Jackson is like that son of a gun's been the MVP.
Yeah, it's a big difference.
It's a huge difference. But they're gonna have to come up with some things to create some plays to get an advantage right there. I would. There's nothing to save it for. So
yeah, because their Week 18 game might not matter. Like if they lose to the Packers, like it's over for Baltimore. Like they're probably, I don't know, depending I guess on Lamar Jackson's injury status, like might not even play in that game. But we talked about the two quarterbacks from both of these teams. Let's focus in on the Packers. Jordan Love in concussion protocol. We already mentioned Malik Willis hurting his throwing shoulder in that game against Chicago Bears. From a coach's perspective, how difficult is this for Matt LaFleur, Adam Stenavich, Luke Buckus, the offensive guys, to game plan when both quarterbacks are listed as questionable?
Brandon, you may know this better than I do. So tell me, where are we? I know both those guys practiced today. Is that accurate?
That's correct. Both limited. Malik Willis said he will be good to go if called upon. So that's probably encouraging news that you're going to get at least one of them. I'm not going out on a limb here, Coach, saying that the Packers would prefer it to be Jordan Love, but you know how the concussion protocol works. It's all right. Every concussion is different. Literally everyone is different. Right. We've seen guys season end due to concussion. We, have seen a guy bounce back in the same game, after what we thought was a concussion. So it is very different. And I think the Packers would tell you they would prefer Jordan Love in this one against John Harbaugh and the Baltimore Ravens, but both of them did practice. Jordan Love also participating in meetings, Coach. So that's encouraging, I suppose, if you're a Packers fan. But from a game plan perspective, if you're Matt LaFleur, are you making two separate game plans? Like, how does this even happen when you have two guys? They didn't sign a quarterback this week. So that's probably the best news if you're a Packers fan. Like, they haven't added a quarterback to the roster. So that probably tells you that one of these two guys is going to be good to go. But when you're game planning, how difficult is it to have two different game plans, two different players potentially playing?
Here's what I think. I don't think that there's like two different game plans. I think it's the same game plan. But here's what the Packers have that I think is very positive is now that Malik can practice this week. The last couple of weeks, he has never taken like a first team rep. Yeah. Those backup quarterbacks don't. They're always like the scout team quarterback. So I think it's going to be the same game plan. And here's the caveat, I think, Brandon, is that the Malik some additions on the game plan sheet, because he's a little bit more mobile. Maybe it's the zone read. Maybe it's a little bit more shorter throws or quicker throws right now. But I don't think like there's like two game plans, but I think there's an addition amount of plays on the call sheet if Malik is the guy.
We mentioned it, only the 8th time these two teams are meeting against each other, the Packers and the Ravens, Week 17 at Lambeau Field. Coach, what's it like preparing for an uncommon opponent? And this is about as uncommon as it gets for these two franchises to only play 8 times. I know Baltimore, had relocated and found its way back home, and the Packers have been around forever, but only the 8th time it's two teams that don't see each other, that don't really run into each other quite, often. How difficult is it when you're preparing for a team that you see once every 4-8 years?
I don't think it really is, because if you just like break it down to like very like elementary things, they've got 11, we've got 11. There's only so many things that teams can do. So it's not like the Packers go like, man, I've never seen this defense before. I've never seen that offensive scheme before. It's football's football, so I don't think it's very difficult to prepare for it. The thing that you have to worry about, or not worry about, but plan for, is the individual matchups that you get offense and defensively. Who can we match up against the best. Like Zay's going to be like a guy, right? And I was just looking at this. He's got 1,043 yards and 107 targets this year.
Yep.
That's pretty damn good. I mean, here's the bell cow, right? And the next guy is a tight end, the Andrews guy.
Mark Andrews, yep.
Yeah, 380 yards. That's like 1/3 of the production in the passing game, and 63 targets. So that's like about half of that too. So where's the difference going to be making? It's going to be Derrick Henry.
That brings me to the question I wanted to ask you, and you walked it up almost perfectly for me. You mentioned Zay Flowers. You mentioned potentially Lamar Jackson or Tyler Huntley. They can both do similar things. I don't think the offense changes a ton between the two, but obviously Lamar Jackson is just a different player, but he has been so banged up, and I only know that mostly because he's been on my fantasy team this year, and there's just been weeks where
anything for you?
There's been weeks where it's like 8 points, 4 points. I'm like, what is going on? So he's just been banged up, right? He had the knee, he had the hamstring, he had a toe injury. He's now battling a back injury. But let's say Lamar Jackson plays, or it doesn't. I guess it doesn't really matter who the quarterback is. You mentioned Derrick Henry, you mentioned Mark Andrews, Zay Flowers. What unit on defense for the Packers do you think needs to show up the most? Is it the pass rush? Is it the secondary? Keyshawn Nixon got picked on in Chicago with the DJ Moore game-winning touchdown. Xavier McKinney dropped another interception in this game. Or is it the run defense, as you mentioned, Derrick Henry, 1,253 yards on this season, again in over 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns, averaging 5 yards per carry. Which defensive unit do you think needs to step up the most for this Packers defense to be successful on Saturday?
Well, the Packers are like 5th in the NFL in rush defense. So I think they've done a great job this year as far as defending the run. Chicago is a run team, and they were okay last week against the Bears. I mean,
both times the Packers held their own against them.
The Bears didn't run, and that was like their thing, right? The Bears didn't run over the Packers last week. I mean, Derrick Henry is just a beast. I mean, he's so much fun to watch. That son of a gun. He runs the ball so super hard. But here's the thing about like the pass, like sacks. I read it today that Jackson's been sacked 33 times. Holy smokes, right? I mean, they're having a hard time protecting that. So what I would say is like, here the Packers can get healthy, even though they don't minus Micah Parsons, but the pass rush could really get to him. And I think the other two guys were sacked like 8 times, Huntley and that. So that's a lot of sacks. And that's like 30th in the league.
That would explain the injuries for Lamar Jackson this year than for exactly. Baltimore. And I think too, like, and maybe this is kind of, I'm not comparing them. I know Packer fans will probably get mad at, but you played Caleb Williams, twice in the span of the last 3 weeks. Like, that has to be helpful when you're preparing for Lamar Jackson. Now, I'm not putting Caleb Williams and Lamar Jackson on the same pedestal. I'm not doing that. But what I'm saying is like elusiveness, escapability that Caleb Williams has is comparable, right? Like to Lamar Jackson. Like, he can escape and move and run. And the Packers, for the most part, both of those games, I know one of them included Micah Parsons. The second one did not, but that should bode well for a defense that's kind of seen a guy that likes to scramble and get out of the pocket. So if the Packers do play Lamar Jackson or even Tyler Huntley, who can get out of the pocket as well, that should bode well, as far as preparation and comfort in knowing how to approach that quarterback, if they were to escape the pocket or
I think Brandon, I think that's a really, really good point. I mean, the thing is, Jackson is so elusive, right? And so explosive.
He is
when he's out in the pocket. Like Caleb's good. Caleb's is like that bigger guy. How big is Lamar? Do you know? Like,
he's not as big. I mean, he's definitely not as big as Caleb Williams.
Yeah, Caleb's big, but like Lamar is so damn athletic.
So Lamar is 6'2".
Yeah.
So I'm trying 230.
He's that big, boy. I didn't think
let's 6'2". It says typically weighs around 205 to 215. Okay. So I guess
bigger than 230.
Yeah,
a couple biscuits bigger.
Caleb Williams, I'll give you his measurements. This is, of course, coming from the Bears website. 6'1", 226, so a little bit heavier, but a little bit shorter. I don't know if that really necessarily matters, but
Lamar's a little more twitchy.
A little. I think way more.
A lot more. I should say a lot more.
And I think too, like I haven't watched a ton of Ravens games, but Lamar seems to look downfield a little bit more than Caleb Williams. Like Caleb Williams loves to move, loves to get out of the pocket, and that's something that the Packers obviously probably game plan for. And I don't know if, again, they're from a coaching standpoint, how do you, on the flip side, I asked you about the offense, like, how do you prepare defensively for a team that you don't know who's starting?
How did I know that you were going to ask that question?
Because like it just popped in my head. Like,
no,
wait a minute.
I knew you were going to do that. But so here's the thing. They've already prepared for a mobile quarterback. Like Caleb he's mobile, but he's more of a physical mobile guy, right? He can step out of the rush and all that type of thing. But I think that if you have a quarterback that is mobile, you have a game plan where you're going to be able to check him as far as like a spy, or let's make sure that we let him, if he's going to escape up in the pocket, it's going to be up in the middle, not around the edge. So I'm sure Jeff has got some plan like that for Baltimore, and he's already had that plan in for Chicago. So.
Yeah, there's no real disadvantage this week for the Packers. They don't have a short week. It was a Saturday back-to-back Saturday games as they'll welcome in the Baltimore Ravens in week 17. And the Packers, boy, do they need a bounce-back performance, a much needed bounce-back performance against those Baltimore Ravens. How can they get it done? We share our keys to a Packers victory right after this. Today's Locked On Packers midweek edition of our squad show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. NFL Sundays, they move fast, one big play, and suddenly everything feels different. That's what makes live betting with FanDuel so exciting. You're not just watching the game, you're reacting to it in real time. And with FanDuel, you can place bets as the action unfolds. Every drive, every momentum swing, every highlighted moment. Live betting is the best when the game starts to shift, a receiver gets hot, a defense tightens up, or the momentum flips after a turnover. And the cool thing about FanDuel, they let you jump into the moment so easily. Live spreads and money lines adjust instantly. Player props update as guys start to heat up. And you can bet on next touchdown scores, drive results, totals, and more. It keeps you locked into every snap, every drive, and every possibility. So if you want to be right in the middle of the action this season, it is really simple. Visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bet all season long. FanDuel, the game moves fast, and so can you. That's FanDuel.com. It is a Week 17 battle between the Baltimore Ravens and our Green Bay Packers as they welcome in maybe Lamar Jackson, probably Tyler Huntley. We're not sure. It could be Malik Willis, could be Jordan Love. A lot of moving pieces this week for our Green Bay Packers and for the Baltimore Ravens, but we do want to break down our keys to a Packers victory. We do it every week on the midweek show where we break down what needs to happen, what we think absolutely needs to happen for the Packers to walk out with a Week 17 win. And Coach, I will start with you. Your three keys, I could probably name one of them off the top of my head. I probably
know what they
I could probably
are.
say it in my sleep, Coach, but your three keys to the Packers beating the Ravens on Saturday.
You know exactly what they are, because it's the same damn thing every week, right? It's turnovers, explosive plays. That's the thing. You know, people go like, well, it's time of possession, and that's really not. You know, I mean, that's just not, because we had that last week against Chicago. It was ridiculous going into the first half of that game, how much time of possession the Packers had. But it's always about explosive plays. It's always about turnover margin. And, you know, we didn't win the turnover margin last weekend, you know, and
Yep.
You go through the whole season on what those games look like. So here's the thing I think that the Packers can do is like they're 28th at Baltimore's 28th in pass defense. And they, in May, threw for 380 yards up in New England. So what quarterback is going to be available? If it's going to be Malik, maybe run the ball more. But here's the challenge that Packers have this week about running the ball more is like they're down another tight end. Guy got a season. How many season-ending injuries could we have at tight end? We got
I know.
Man, an Achilles. That's
John Fitzpatrick for the Packers. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, that's crazy. And like, so Packers really have one tight end left. Or if they have like an offensive lineman that's going to go do that, and
which they have. Darian Kennard's been essentially
he has
a tight end.
He's not going out for passes.
Correct.
Correct. Right. I mean, but as far as like a protection and a run guy, great. But all of a sudden, you're down like to your fourth tight end. That's crazy. And then Jacobs healthy?
So on the injury report, as we scroll, Josh Jacobs limited.
Right.
It says knee and ankle. I wasn't unaware of the ankle.
Yeah.
I was aware of the knee. So Josh Jacobs limited, as well as was Jordan Love, we mentioned, and Malik Willis. The good news, Romeo Doubs, full participant.
Well, that's good. So and then Wilson's going to have to step up. And here's another thing I think for the key to victory, and then the two are always the same, right? It's turnovers, explosive plays. The Packers got to step up in the red zone this week. Man, we can't be 1-9 or 1-10.
I wish I could show you my notes because I literally have it written down 1 for 9 in the last 2 games in the red zone.
Unbelievably bad. That's bad football.
And they were the best team in the red zone.
What changed, right? I mean, that's the crazy thing about coaching. You're sitting there, you're going in there at 12:65 at like 5 a.m. and going like, how the hell can we fix this red zone stuff? Because it needs to get fixed. Because if you just take a look at the last 2 games, let's just say they're 50%. Yeah, Packers are the number 1 team in the NFC.
They probably win both those games, Coach. They probably win both those games.
So I'm going to go ahead and do it. I know you had my first 2, Brandon, but the other one is to make sure that we do better in the red zone this week.
Oh, I love it. I think obviously the red zone is the biggest thing, and I think like you mentioned it, and you've been in those moments and those predicaments where you're like, we were so good, now we're not. Like you're losing sleep over it. I'm sure Matt LaFleur, Adam Stenavich, those guys have lost sleep. Mine are relatively online with yours, a little bit different on a few of them. The first one for me is you have to play a clean special teams game. And I know Rich Bisaccia caught a lot of flack amongst Packer fans. Romeo Doubs just has to make that play on that onside kick attempt and recovery by the Chicago Bears in week 16 at Soldier Field. Like he's got to make that recovery. If he makes that recovery, Coach, nobody's talking about special teams in that game. Nobody's probably talking about Rich Bisaccia because that was a pretty clean special teams game from the Green Bay Packers. Like I don't think they were penalized on special teams in that game. McManus hit all of his field goals, even the extra point he hit after Jaden Reed got penalized for a personal, what was the penalty? I think he was taunting, whatever he was doing after the touchdown from Romeo Doubs. So that turned that 35-yard extra point into a 48-yarder, and he nailed it. Like Brandon McManus was good in that game. The special teams overall was good in that game, but it's got to be perfect against a John Harbaugh-led special teams unit, one of the best special teams units in all of football. My number 1 key, the Packers have to play a clean game when it comes to the special teams. It's been so up and down all season long for this special teams unit, and I understand the angst within Packer fans with Rich Bisaccia, who's one of the highest paid assistants in the NFL. Like it's just got to be better for the Green Bay Packers in this game, especially with our friends over at FanDuel with a 2.5-point game, Coach, minus 2.5 right now for the Packers. You're talking about a field goal, right? Like that's a field goal difference of a ball game. The Packers have to play a clean special teams unit. Number 2, not going to surprise anybody with my second key to the Packers getting a victory is containing Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, and or Tyler Huntley. There's a chance we see all 3 of these guys in the game. Derrick Henry mentioned it already before. 1,253 yards, 12 touchdowns. He's averaging 5 yards per carry. The Ravens in the NFL, Coach, 3rd in total rush yards and 3rd in rush yards per game. 147.9 rush yards per game are the Baltimore Ravens. Now, on the flip side, this is something that the Packers have done well. You mentioned it, Coach. You mentioned what they did against the Chicago Bears. We mentioned so many times throughout the course of all of these shows how special that middle of the Packers defense was, right? Quay Walker, Edgerrin Cooper, Isaiah McDuffie when he's had to play has been awesome. The Packers 10th in yards allowed on the ground, defensively. So it's like strength versus strength. Who wins that game, wins that matchup. We talked about against the Bears was you got to be better in the red zone. They didn't do that. They lost the game. This one, whoever has the better ground game or the lack thereof, I think is going to end up winning this game. And on the flip side, my third key, which is kind of in the trenches, Coach, you love that I'm in the trenches.
I do love it.
The offensive line for the Green Bay Packers has got to be stout this week. It wasn't perfect on Saturday against the Chicago Bears. The clip out there of Jordan Morgan getting absolutely wrecked by Montez Sweat. Overall, it wasn't bad, right? Jordan Love goes down with the sack from the helmet-to-helmet collision with Austin Booker of the Bears. It wasn't a bad offensive line performance, but it's going to have to be really, really sound if either one of these quarterbacks are in, Coach, because if Jordan Love's coming fresh off a concussion, the last thing you want that dude to do is to take another hit. So you've got to keep him upright. Yep. Let's say it's Malik Willis, Coach. You don't want the shoulder getting hit. You don't want his throwing shoulder getting hit. Right. So where he's down, and Josh Jacobs is your emergency third-string quarterback.
Who's our guy?
Josh Jacobs, reportedly, according to Matt LaFleur.
He's our third, huh?
He's the emergency guy. But I think, too, you've got to be able to run the ball effectively if you're the Green Bay Packers. And that's where, kind of backs up the offensive line. Because if you're able to run the ball, if you're able to kind of maintain time of possession, if you're able to keep that Baltimore, front seven, they're 13th in run defense. So they're not the best. They're not the worst. They're right in the middle of the NFL as far as run defense. But if you're able to kind of control the tempo, control the speed of the game, control, what you're doing offensively speaking, and utilize the play action and being able to run effectively on first down and keep the chains moving, I think that takes a lot of pressure off of whoever the quarterback is. Like, it could be, like we mentioned, could be Jordan Love coming off of a concussion, or it could be Malik Willis with the injured shoulder. Like, it's just got to be something where this Packers team has got to establish themselves. They did it against the Chicago Bears. And that's what brings me to a question that I've been really wanting to get your take on. Now, we've talked about this Packers defense enough. The offense, Coach, when we look at this offense, and Josh Jacobs not 100%, right? Jordan Love, Malik Willis not 100%. Their offensive line not 100%. Zach Tom. But when you look at this Packers team, do you think that they're built to win a physical playoff style football game, or is that a question mark still on this team and organization?
I think the Packers are, because they've shown that they will run the football. What was it, like 40 times a couple weeks ago?
42 against the Vikings.
Times.
Yeah.
So they're, Matt's shown that he wants to run the football. And I think if you want to be, and way all the North teams used to be built was you have to be able to run the ball late in the season, right? That was always like the number one thing. It's like, you got to be able to run the football late in the season in the NFC North. You had to be like one of the top teams to do that, because you have to be able to control the games. Like, this game is at 2.5, you said?
Correct. Yep. I'm looking right now just to double check, but I believe most places have it at 2.5.
Yeah. When I've already got the final score. You should probably put like, I don't know, maybe a Cadillac or something on it, but I'll say it at the end of the show. But, the team that runs the ball the best this week, because of the way the quarterback situation is, I think is a team that's going to win. I don't think it's going to be a very high scoring game.
I think the over-under, I got to look on FanDuel. I think it was 40.5. Don't quote me. So, like, FanDuel doesn't think so. Vegas obviously doesn't think it's going to be as well. But I almost think that bodes good, Coach, for the Packers, right? It's a team where you really look at, you mentioned the Vikings where they ran it 42 times, Coach. You got to go all the way back to that November game, right? They're coming off of losses against Carolina and Philly. Both of those games were at Lambeau Field, back-to-back home losses. The first time that's happened in years. And then it felt like they were in playoff mode, Coach, or they technically still are. Like, you had 3 straight NFC North opponents. You beat all 3 of them, the Vikings, Bears, and Lions. And then you go into, you have the Denver Broncos, then you have the Bears again, and then you've lost those last 2 games. You could also make the argument that they shouldn't have lost those 2 games, but again, that doesn't matter because what happened was an actual loss. But I think that bodes well for a team that's kind of been in playoff mode, it feels like, for the last month or so of their season. Yeah,
I think whoever else thinks, I think Matt LaFleur is a really good football coach. I think he's a very good offensive mind. I really do, because he takes what people are giving them, right? So like the other week, he had to run the ball 40 times. And then sometimes you have to throw the ball 40 times.
Yep.
It's not like, well, this is who he is. And he's going to do whatever he has to do to win the football game. But I think that the guy that I think the prediction is going to be a big player in this game is Wilson for us at running back.
Ran really good. He ran really good.
He's going to have to step up because the other guy just ain't healthy. He's just
Jacobs,
not.
yeah.
He's just not. And I like Josh. I think Josh is a tough runner, and he's been great in the red zone. And then all of a sudden, a guy, turns it over in the red zone last week, which is just unheard of.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't do that. But his strength for the last couple of seasons is scoring, running the football in the red zone. And that's where we're really lacking. So I really think Wilson is going to have to step up for us this week.
I'm going to put you on the spot here, and I apologize in advance.
No.
I did not give you this question.
You do this all the time to me.
I don't give you, for those at home, I don't give them any of these questions. A lot of these I either write down before the show or I just get a feel for it. And you mentioned Matt LaFleur, and I agree with you. On the premise, I think he's an excellent coach, right? He's one of the winningest coaches in NFL history. People will say the lack of Super Bowls, ring culture has kind of ruined the way fans view football, right? Tom Brady winning 7 Super Bowls and then Patrick Mahomes winning a handful right after him. Like, people just think it's this easy thing to do. But if you're looking at this matchup specifically, Coach, the Packers and Ravens, what's one in-game coaching decision you'll be watching closely from Matt LaFleur in this game? And I told you I was putting you on the spot a little bit because there's a little bit of different ways you can go about this one.
And again, there is, and I think that, and I kind of hate it because I mean we did it some, but like the can, right? Yep. Like it's always a run pass option, and I think that the passing defense again is 28th for them. So I think the run game is going to be really, really big. So if he's got like the run pass, not the RPOs, but the run game or the pass game, according to what the defense is giving them, if it's cover 2, it's going to be a run. That's just how that's what
two safeties. You're talking cover 2, two safeties back.
2 safeties because they don't have an extra safety down in the box. So there's 4 guys on each side of the center. Yep. That's all the gaps, A, B, C, D. All the way out. So if they're playing a bunch of cover 2, they better be able to run the football. And you know what? They're saying the same thing. And they're going like, God, please play cover 2 against us. But I don't think Packers are that. They always want to bring a safety down.
Yeah, and I think they're
going to have to make sure that Henry doesn't run wild.
And we'll see if that happens. Like we'll see with the injury report, right? If Friday comes around or Thursday comes around.
Interesting, won't it?
It's going to be interesting. Lamar Jackson did not participate at practice. Jordan Love and Malik Willis did. We'll see if the Packers can get it done. Hopefully they're listening to the Locked On Packers Squad show because that's our keys to a Packers win. Coming up next, each week we bring you as close as possible to our show, the Locked On Packers Squad show, and we share what we are discussing in our group chat. Stay tuned. That's coming up right after this. Today's midweek edition of the Locked On Packers Squad show is brought to you by our friends over at Car Guru. Car shopping should feel exciting, not confusing. And with Car Gurus, you get the confidence you deserve. They cut all the noise so you can actually see the best deals on the cars you want. Because when it comes to a big purchase, you deserve the best deal possible. And Car Gurus makes the whole process simple by giving you real information, real deal ratings, and more listings than anyone else. So you can shop the way you want. Having verified dealerships and upfront pricing makes the whole thing feel transparent and stress-free. Using Car Guru's deal ratings to compare cars quickly without having to guess whether the price is fair, that is also really, really important. They connect you with trusted dealerships for a transparent and hassle-free buying process with over 4 million listings, the most of any major online automotive marketplace. You'll find the best deal on the market. Shop the way you want with the tools, the data, and the unbiased data ratings that make it easy. Buy or sell your next car today at carguru.com. That's CARGURUS.com. Cargurus.com. Thank you for making Locked On Packers your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Each week we do it. It's one of our favorite segments we bring you into our group chat. We give you the insights into the things we are discussing around our favorite football team. And as always, it's no different this week. Two things I wanted to touch on, Coach. Two things into the group chat. They both were talked about. Well, one of them was I guess technically both were talked about. Well, one was really talked about earlier on the show. So we'll touch that one second. I want to touch the first one, and that is Malik Willis. What did you see? Because you had some interesting comments about Malik Willis while we were watching that Bears game. And for those that don't listen to the Squad Show or not everydayers, number one, you should be. But number two, if you're not, we live chat or we live text during all Packer games. So you, me, and Peter, we're all in on our group chat and we're talking about it. And you had some fun things to say about Malik Willis, talking about how dynamic he is with the ball in his hand, how he brings a different element to the football game. What did you see on Saturday from Malik Willis that really caught your attention?
You know what was good, and we talked about this before, is that he did not get any live snaps in practice.
Correct. Yep.
Not one. There wasn't one practice rep that Malik took last week. And for that guy to come in and to be able to do what he did, and he was very productive. He was 9 of 11. I don't know how many yards he had, but he was 9 of 11. But what stood out most to me was his demeanor. He was very, very calm. It wasn't too big for him. The first part of the deal, when he was in there, they ran the ball quite a bit.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you run the ball well, and then you can get some play action. But the series that really stood out to me is he had a scramble, and then we had like a late hit, right? And they got like a roughing deal on him. And then the next one, he had a scramble for a first down, and it just added a different dynamic and Jordan's good, but he's not like that fast, right? And not that quick. So I thought that looked a lot better as far as the mobility at the quarterback spot. But he was productive though. That was the thing that was like
quickly, Coach, like right off the bench, like quickly.
But did you see what LaFleur did with him though? He let him run the ball a bunch of times to get him involved into the game, into the flow of the game. Very, very good coaching, at my point. Very good coaching that he did that to get him comfortable, and he didn't start slinging it like the first time he was out there, which would have been really, really bad coaching. So he did a good job. I think he managed him really well. We had this conversation a few weeks ago, Brandon, where we were talking about love, and there was a perceived misconnect between LaFleur and Love. And then I said, well, what he's got to do is take him into the room, go, Jordan, come in here. And he's doing the same thing with Malik. Now he's got both those kids in there. It's like, all right, what can you do? What do you really feel comfortable in this offense doing that we can do this Sunday or Saturday to beat Baltimore? But there's always an open communication between the play caller and the quarterback. There has to be.
Malik Willis traded for a 7th-round pick late last summer from Brian Gutekunst, and thankfully, Coach, he did. He came in, he won a few games. Jordan Love had the MCL sprain in week 1 against the Philadelphia Eagles. The good news for Malik Willis, it is a shoulder injury. He did participate at practice, which also means he was able to talk to the media after practice, and he was asked, about your journey from Tennessee to the Green Bay Packers, what it's been like, and what the Packers have found. Here is Malik Willis after practice at Lambeau Field.
I think it's just taking advantage of those times that weren't great and trusting in God's plan for my life and learning from each situation that I've been in and taking, all the good I could from it and just being able to get a chance to utilize it. I just didn't get a chance to get on the field, so you can't really say whether this offense, it made me get better or not. It's just I didn't have the chance to do anything.
He's had the chance now, Coach, and I put it on my Twitter account at Brandon_Sneide. He's a starting quarterback in the NFL, and I'm not just saying he's a bridge or a guy that can come in for a year or two and just kind of sit there and tread water. I think, Coach, and not because he's wearing the green and gold, I obviously want Malik Willis to stay in Green Bay, but I truly think that dude belongs as a star, deserves an opportunity. Now, you could look at it, and most people might be right when they say, well, he's thriving because he's under Matt LaFleur, and the offense that Matt LaFleur allows him to run is beneficial. But any good coach could tailor their system to the quarterback that they have. And I do, Coach, really firmly believe that maybe next year, because he is a pending free agent, Malik Willis is going to deserve his opportunity. And quite frankly, I don't really care where it's at. I'm going to be rooting for that dude, because what he says after games, before games, how he carries himself, he comes in, and every time he's come in for the Packers, minus that game against the Bears, they've won. They've won.
It's
amazing.
You know what? Here's like, you just saw that. Like, that guy's a cool cat, right? He didn't. It wasn't too big. And here's the thing: like last year and this year, it wasn't too big for him to come in there and step in and to make plays and win football games for us. So you know what? I hope he does get another chance. You know how many guys, Brandon? I don't know. You may have to help me with the names on this stuff that were on the pat. I know you know exactly what I'm going to say. That was behind Brett Favre, right? Kurt Warner, Hall of Fame guy, right? Yep. Danny Burnell, he became a Pro Bowler. Matt Hasselbeck, was a guy, right? Doug Peterson,
Aaron Brooks, another one.
Aaron Brooks is a Tidewater guy out of Virginia. I used to recruit him when I was at East Carolina. I tried recruiting that son of a gun. But but how many guys left this deal under Holmgren and became Pro Bowlers? A ton. Just those 4 guys all became Pro Bowlers. So you know what? I wish the guy all the best. He needs to still be productive when he goes in there. Hopefully that Love can play this week, and if he can't, Malik, you're in, and do the best you can. I think that he's going to have to be a little bit, if it's Malik, because of the backup quarterback situation with Josh Jacobs, he's going to have to protect him a little bit. He can't just like go empty and all. He's not going to be able to do that with him.
I know we're in a good spot with Malik, Coach, when I'm confident. Well, and we're going to do our final score prediction, and I'll probably spoil it a little bit. Like, I feel confident no matter which one of those guys plays on Saturday that the Packers will win. Like, and I got them
winning too. Yeah.
That speaks volumes on the person and the player that Malik Willis has done. It hasn't been the easiest, road for him. Certainly in Tennessee, he's probably thankful he's not down there in Nashville anymore, and he's up in Green Bay and has been given this opportunity and has absolutely showcased. But speaking of showcasing the lack thereof for the Packers, also in our group chat, Coach, and we kind of hit on it a little bit. We don't have to spend a ton of time on it. The red zone issues. We were both going back and forth in our group chat. Every red zone that the Packers failed in, we were 0 for 1, 0 for 2, 0 for 3, 0 for 4, 0 for 5. I mean, it added up. It added up against the Bears. It added up against the Denver Broncos. 1-9. We mentioned it between the Broncos game and the Bears game now in the red zone. Is this something that just kind of it kind of smooths out on its own? Like, what are coaches looking at? What are they talking about? What are they thinking about in these moments where you were really good? And the Packers were the best red zone goal-to-go team in the NFL, converting on 42% of their their red zone drives. And now 1 for 9 in their last 2 games. Yeah. It's not good.
Yep. So so like on an offensive staff, when you're in there, each coach has a particular area that he is responsible for presenting to the offense and giving plays. And here's what I think is going to be good in that. And actually, that was my area when I was in Green Bay. I was my deal was red zone.
Okay.
Right. And so at some point in the last 2 games, something has gone sideways where we're not being productive in the red zone. So they have to go back where they were being productive. Why were productive? They were running the ball. Jacobs was running the ball really, really well down there. So where did we fall off on it? Is it because of the O-line? Is it because of Jacobs is hurt, which could be? So they have to come to an agreement. Like, here's where it went sideways, and this is what we need to do to fix it. I think that Jacobs needs to be healthier, and if it's not Jacobs, it's got to be Wilson to be able to run the ball. And he's already shown that he can't do that.
Yeah, we'll see if the Packers can get it done. Red zone will be huge, certainly against the Ravens team, trying to keep that offense off the field and put up points and make them throw the ball and take the ball out of the hands of Derrick Henry. Coming up, we got one final break. Our Locked On Packers midweek squad show. They're an hour. It seems like it's a lot of time, but believe it or not, there are a few things we tend to miss or just simply couldn't get to enough. Our extra points of the week coming up right after this. Thank you for making Locked On Packers your first listen of the day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network, the hour-long Coach midweek edition of our squad show. It contains so many great content. You've heard all of it already. Coach diving into the 4th and 26. It's all pain, Coach, on the show.
Very painful. Got me fired for Christ's sakes.
But believe it or not, there are times we forget a point or two, or maybe something we wanted to revisit. We call this segment our extra points of the week. Coach, if you don't mind, I'm going to start us off with this one. And it's just one person, one player. I would say one opportunity, but I feel like he's had those already. And it's Rashawn Gary. I don't know what is going on with Rashawn Gary. He seems to be healthy. He's not playing a ton of snaps. He never really does, but he's coming off of the field. I think Peter pointed it out on Twitter. It was like the 3rd or 4th play against the Bears. He's already subbing out. No sacks, Coach, for Rashawn Gary. You got to go back. Okay, we're about to celebrate Christmas. You got to go all the way back to pre-Halloween, Coach, the last time that Rashawn Gary recorded a sack against the Pittsburgh Steelers. October 26th. He's one of the highest paid Packers on the team. I'm not looking at the roster right now. I think he's 3rd or 4th behind Jordan Love and Micah Parsons. I just don't know what is going on, but my extra point of the week is you need to step up, Rashawn Gary. You need to elevate your play, not only because of the contract you've been given, but because of Micah Parsons not being on this team anymore due to the ACL tear. This defense needs you. Jeff Hafley needs you. Rashawn, I need you as a Packer fan. I need you to step up. That's my extra point of the week, Coach. I need number 52 for our Green Bay Packers to step up these last 2 weeks and going into the postseason, because I'm not going to spoil anything, and you'd probably agree with this, Coach. If you can't get to the quarterback in the postseason, guess what? That's about it.
Well, that's why Jeff played a little bit more blitzing. What did he blitz almost 50% of the time? And the reason that he did that, he had to generate some pass rush because he wasn't getting there with 4. So you have to bring the 5th guy, whether it's Cooper or Quay or whoever that is. We talked about Cooper being a factor last year, and he should be a factor this week. My extra point this week is all right, we're down to 1 tight end. Damn. And, I'm like the favorite of all those guys, right? But we're down to 1 tight end. So here's what's going to happen, because you only have so many guys up on game day. So they're not going to be playing a lot of 11. They're not going to be playing a lot of 12 unless they're going to use an extra offensive lineman. So what they're going to have to do is have up an extra wide receiver. Who's got to step up? Golden. He's your guy, right? The golden child, Brandon, has been your guy for years. Well, for a year, maybe, right? For a year. But he's got to step up. He's got to step up, and the receivers have to step up. Dobbs, I think, is a really good player. What happened to him on the onside kick? It happened. The guy didn't make the play. That happens sometimes.
And he owned up to it. In his defense, he owned up to it.
He's a pro. He's a pro. Walker, he's got to be a guy. He's got to step out. Is he healthy? Not hopefully. But I think that the receivers are going to play a bigger part in this game. If we get the run game going, I just don't know how they're going to do it with just 1 tight end, as far as what personnel group is. They didn't bring up another guy. So anyway, the receivers are going to have to step up this week in the play action game. And that's when you can go ahead and use the extra offensive lineman as a protector and then throw it down the field.
I am curious to your point, because I think it's a great extra point, and it's something I really hadn't thought about. But you bring up an excellent point. I guess that's why you were a coach in the professional rankings, and I'm a amateur podcaster. But when you look at, I'm surprised, Coach, that they haven't brought anybody in off the street. Are you surprised? I'm guessing they're not going to.
There ain't many guys. There ain't many. You had mentioned Mercedes last week. Actually, I think as we were coming off the show on Saturday night, you had mentioned that.
Yep.
But if you only got 1 tight end left, I'm telling you, you're out of 12 personnel. Unless you are. Yeah. And you got to be in 11. So I would anticipate seeing a lot of offensive line, the extra offensive linemen.
A lot of Darian Kennard. And to that point, Coach, they're not healthy there either, right? If Zach Thomas can't go, that drops everybody up, brings everybody up another level. And now you're a little bit more depleted in that area. So if there's an injury or two on that side of things,
But the receiver,
takes everything out.
So there's a huge challenge for Matt LaFleur and his offense this week as far as what personnel are available to use for and game planning. It's going to be just huge on how those guys have to go ahead and manipulate that.
I guess if you want some more positive news, if you're a Packers fan, you're talking about the tight ends, and we'll get to our final score predictions here in a minute. Josh Whyle, you remember he suffered the concussion against the Broncos. He missed the Bears game. He was also limited today. So that's where
there's your second one.
There's the concussion thing, Coach, right? Like we talk about, is Jordan going to play? Wiley missed the last game with a concussion. He went out early against the Broncos and then missed the Bears game. Like he wasn't cleared within the last week or so to play. So again, it brings into question who's going to be the quarterback for the Green Bay Packers. It sounds like it could be Malik Willis, and I'll give you my final score prediction because I don't really think it matters if it's Malik or if it's Jordan. I got the Packers winning in this one. I got 24-17. I don't think it's going to be a crazy high-scoring game. I think the Packers offense has proven they can put up points offensively speaking. I know they only scored 16 against the Chicago Bears. Again, they're in the red zone 5 times and only putting up 16 points. But I do think that this Packers team at home, I think they're going to I think they have been itching to get on the field, Coach, for this game to kind of to wash that loss, that taste out of their mouth and get back into the winning side of things. And obviously a win would clinch the Packers into the postseason for the 3rd straight year under Jordan Love as a starting quarterback. So I got Packers 24, Ravens 17. I think the Packers improve to 10-5-1, clinch a postseason berth, and then we'll see what happens in the NFC North race.
Got to get it. So I'm real close to you, Brandon. Mine is 20-17. It's 2.5. I think it's going to be a very, very physical football game.
I do too.
It just will be. I mean, they're fighting for something too.
They still are. Yep. They
still are. I mean, and they're pros, right? And they're all everybody's getting paid. But I'm going to say it's going to be 20-17. And
close one, Coach.
Yeah, it is. And it's going to be a field goal late.
I don't need a close game. My heart.
No, I know you don't. I know you don't like that, but that's okay. That's what keeps us coming back.
That's right. Both of us getting the Packers, hopefully picking the Packers to win this one. Friendly reminder, the Locked On Packers Squad Show and Daily Show for all of you. They are free and available wherever you guys get audio podcasts. We're also over on YouTube. Search Locked On Packers. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. For Coach and for myself, we will sign off for now. Just a friendly reminder. I know the holidays are right around the corner. Our guy Peter's got you covered on the Daily Show all week. And if you couldn't get enough of my voice, I'll be on that show later on this week. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you listen. Make sure you subscribe. We'll also have you covered on Saturday evening after the final whistle. You'll get all of us. You get Peter for 30 minutes and you get us for 60 minutes. An hour and a half of Packers postgame talk right here on the Locked On Packers YouTube channel. Thanks to each and every one of you for tuning in. Thank you for making Locked On Packers part of your day each and every single day. And thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. And as always, stay Locked On Packers.
Merry Christmas.